system security professional there. Apart from that, I'm also certified in information security management and C-risk, where we like in this particular course also we are going to discuss some of the concepts related to the C-risk here, which is going to very helpful while calculating the risk and defining the control and so on and so forth there. The main thing is actually I'm also certified in AWS and Azure there, specifically their AZ500 platform, which has been made actually for the security there, and AWS security speciality there, which is again from the AWS side there. So to understand the concept better, might be I will be going to utilize some of the concepts which we are normally implementing in the real world scenario there, so we can understand the concept better, and definitely it's going to helpful to pass the examination, and definitely one of the key thing is actually to gain the knowledge as well there. So let's begin. Now for this certification course, CCSP, there are some requirements we have there. So let's discuss some of them first. Okay, so this certification course is actually from IC Square there, is having some of the basic requirement there, which we need to understood there. The first thing is this certification is having total of 6 different domain, or you can say 6 different area to cover it up there, which is actually from the different stuffs which we need to understand about the cloud part there. And definitely based on that, we will be checking out some of the issues, and then some of the control, which is going to help me to implement the security properly within the cloud there. Remember, this is a management based certification, so we are actually looking for some of the best practices which will help me to implement the control there. Like there are very many different guidelines available there, which is going to help you to implement the solutions properly there. Specifically in CCSP syllabus, we have NIST guidelines, which is predominantly available there for implementation of the control there. So we will be checking some of the numbers there, although you don't need to move into that documentation. But yeah, definitely if you are trying to understand more about the security stuffs of any of the component, it will be good if you can actually revisit some of the documentations which I'm going to discuss here, like NIST risk management framework, risk assessment frameworks, then after the control implementation guideline, classification guidelines. So these are some of the important, you can say documentation, which is going to help you to understand the overall concepts of the security. And definitely based off that, you can implement the security properly there. There are very many compliance programs we also have here, which is going to help you to implement the best practices, specifically in the cloud environment there. Remember, the main focus of this whole documentation is actually from the public cloud provider side there. So we are also going to discuss some of the stuffs which is actually we are looking to implement it there onto the public cloud there. But let's just start with the information about the different domain there. So as I told that we are having 6 different domain to cover up here, and this 6 domain is having you can say 6 different area, which is actually being the very integral part of the cloud security there. First, we must have a proper information about the basics cloud component there. So you can say the first chapter, or you can say the first domain, is discussing about the cloud architectural concept and design there. So in this first section, we will be discussing about the architectural concepts and design itself there. And the domain weightage for the examination we have right now currently for this first chapter is 17% there. So you can expect 17% of the question from the same domain there. And this domain is actually going to let you understand what are the different aspects of the cloud is. Like there are very many different definition has been actually given there by the different standardization bodies there. But predominantly NIST one is one of the popular one there, which is widely recognized and accepted by most of the industries there. So we will be checking about the definitions of the NIST specifically, and apart from that ISO as well. Then we will be checking out the 543 rule of the cloud, which is all about the 5 different attributes of the cloud there, then 4 deployment model and the 3 service model there. And around that, our discussion is going to be there, like some of the benefits of the each of the deployment model, some of the demerits we have for those particular deployment model, Then after we will be discussing about the service model there, and definitely based on that we will be again having our discussion on the benefits and the demerits there. Now this is going to help me to understand the risk related to them, and around that we are going to design the control as well there. So this is the first thing. Apart from that, we are having some architectural components as well there, and to design a proper architecture we also must have a proper information about the governance component. Apart from that, we will be also checking the overall enterprise risk management framework there, and the implementation tier after that as well there. So this is what going to be the main focus of this particular first chapter. Apart from that, some of the compliance program also has been discussed there in the first chapter, because again cloud is very much wide there, because most of the consumers around the world is going to dependent on that. So you can say that we have to implement the very many different compliance programs as well there, which is going to let me work onto the cloud there as a consumer. So definitely I will be looking for different standards, different regulatory organization, different regulatory standards also to be implemented there, industrial standards to be implemented there. And it is not only the provider who is having responsibility for that, even the consumer who is building the logical infrastructure of the cloud also have to make sure that their infrastructure is compliant with the given standard there. So the same we will be discussing about here. So let's see it is exactly what we have there onto the cloud concept there. But before, let me just introduce some other models as well. So as I told, the cloud architectural concept is having the 17% of the weightage there. The second domain, which is on the cloud data. Now, it's very much important that we should understand the different down there. So the cloud data security steps there, that is the second domain we have here to discuss. And the domain weightage is right now 19%. See, there are some changes happened there last year only, and after that the weightage has changed. Like previous weightage for this cloud data security was 20%, now it is reduced to 19%. And the overall information what we are discussing in this chapter, or you can say in this domain, is to understand the different type of storage, then different set of control for each of the storage given there. Like object storage and volume storage is one of the predominant storage options we have onto the cloud there. So for them, what are the controls given there? But again, object storage and volume storage is basically and primarily for the infrastructure as a service there. But what about for the PaaS and SaaS there? So we will be discussing all the same thing there, and then different set of control like the DLP, encryption, then after the SIM solution and other IRM protection. So these all things has been discussed under the cloud data security there. So we'll see there how exactly those controls are going to help me to secure my data. And again, data is one of the most crucial part of the component, which is very much attached to the goal of the organization. So anything which is having proper value, we have to actually protect it there. So what are the control and what are the best practices we're implementing? That is again going to have our discussion in this domain number 2 there. In 3, we will be discussing about 2 of the service model. One is the infrastructure, and the another one is going to be the platform as a service there. So infra and PaaS service security, we will be discussing in the domain number 3 there. So different components are there for the infra and the PaaS. The main component I must say there, that it is the compute and the storage along with the network. So for them, what are the controls, what are the risks, and how do we implement the best practices? Again, that is going to be a discussion point along with the business continuity and the disaster recovery, components there. So we have some authentication related components also needs to be discussed in the same domain there. So we'll check it out there. Again, the weightage for this domain is 17%. Fourth domain, we have related to application security. So for the application part, first thing, we will be discussing about the design section of the application, and then after we will be checking it out the different type of risk which is available around the application security there. And there are some new approach which is being added while developing the application for the organization. So what should be the best practices in the framework available there, that is going to help me to design the application properly? That is again going to discussion point of the fourth domain, and the relative weightage is again the 17% there. Fifth domain is on operations. I must say cloud security operations there. So within the operations part, we will be discussing about the internal and external operations there, where the cloud consumer and provider both are actually responsible for maintaining the steps within the cloud there, which actually require both logical and physical operations activity there. When I'm saying logical, there are some administrative controls we have to implement, like we have to have a proper particular process there, and that process needs to be understood and followed there, like change management, incident management, risk management. So these are some of them. Apart from that, some of the benchmarks available there from the CIS and other stuffs there. The relative weightage for this domain is also going to be 17% only in the examination there. So we'll be preparing around the same there. And finally, the last domain, which is the sixth one,